Welcome, dear viewers, to another chilling episode of Haunted Tales Unveiled, where the past whispers its darkest secrets and history becomes a portal to terror. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss an unsettling story or spine-tingling revelation. Today, we delve deep into one of America's most iconic yet enigmatic landmarks, the First Bank of the United States. This isn't just a tale about old bricks and mortar, it's a descent into shadows cast by centuries-old spirits who refuse to be forgotten. The First Bank of the United States stands as more than a relic of early American finance. It is a monument steeped in mystery, intrigue, and whispers of the supernatural. Constructed in 1795 under the vision of Alexander Hamilton, this neoclassical masterpiece was once the epicenter of the nation's economic power. But beyond its grand marble facade lies a labyrinth of eerie encounters, ghostly apparitions, and inexplicable phenomena that have haunted visitors for generations. Why does this historic site hold such allure for those fascinated by the paranormal? Perhaps it's because the building has witnessed countless human dramas, triumphs, betrayals, greed, and despair, all etched into its very walls. Or maybe it's the lingering presence of figures from its storied past, whose restless souls wander through time, seeking resolution or revenge. Whatever the reason, the First Bank of the United States is not merely a tourist attraction, it is a gateway to the unknown. In this article, we will peel back the layers of legend and lore surrounding this hallowed institution. From documented hauntings to spine-chilling eyewitness accounts, we'll uncover the truth behind the spectral activity reported within its hallowed halls. We'll also explore the historical context that gives these stories their weight, delving into the lives of those who shaped, and were shaped by, the bank's tumultuous legacy. So dim the lights, grab your favorite blanket, and prepare yourself for a journey unlike any other. By the end of this exploration, you may find yourself questioning whether ghosts are real, or if they're simply echoes of humanity's unresolved past. Either way, one thing is certain. The First Bank of the United States holds secrets far darker than anyone could have imagined. Are you ready to step inside the birth of a financial powerhouse to understand why the First Bank of the United States became such fertile ground for ghostly legends? We must first journey back to the late 18th century, a time when America was still finding its footing as a fledgling nation. Established in 1791 under President George Washington and Treasury Secretary Alexander Hamilton, the bank was conceived as a cornerstone of economic stability and unity. Its creation came at a critical juncture in U.S. history, following years of financial chaos left in the wake of the Revolutionary War. With debts mounting and state currencies fluctuating wildly, there was an urgent need for a centralized institution to stabilize the burgeoning economy. Hamilton, often regarded as the father of modern American capitalism, envisioned the First Bank as both a repository for federal funds and a mechanism to regulate commerce across the young republic. Designed by renowned architect Samuel Blodgett Jr., the bank's Philadelphia headquarters embodied this vision of strength and prosperity. Built between 1795 and 1797, the structure featured a striking neoclassical design inspired by ancient Greek architecture, complete with towering columns and intricate stonework. It stood as a testament to the ideals of order, progress, and national pride, but beneath its polished exterior lay seeds of controversy that would ripple through history. From its inception, the First Bank sparked heated debates among America's political elite. While Federalists like Hamilton championed it as essential for fostering industrial growth and centralizing fiscal power, Anti-Federalists led by Thomas Jefferson and James Madison viewed it as a threat to states' rights and individual liberties. They argued that granting such immense authority to a private corporation clashed with democratic principles. These ideological clashes culminated in fierce legislative battles, including Congress's contentious decision to charter the bank for a limited 20-year term, an arrangement intended to appease critics but which ultimately sowed further discord. During its operational years, the First Bank played host to some of the most pivotal moments in early American finance. It facilitated loans to merchants and manufacturers, issued standardized currency, and even served as a de facto lender to the federal government during times of crisis. Yet, alongside these achievements came tales of corruption, exploitation, and scandal. Rumors swirled about favoritism and lending practices, accusations of insider trading, and whispers of shadowy dealings behind closed doors. For many ordinary citizens, the bank symbolized not just wealth but also inequality, an institution that seemed to benefit the elite at the expense of the working class. By 1811, when Congress refused to renew its charter, the first bank had already become deeply polarizing. Its closure marked the end of an era but did little to quell the animosity it had stirred. Over subsequent decades, the building changed hands multiple times, serving various purposes, from commercial enterprises to municipal offices. Each transformation brought new occupants and fresh opportunities for tragedy and turmoil, leaving behind layers of emotional residue that some believe continue to haunt its corridors today. This complex tapestry of ambition, conflict, and human drama forms the foundation upon which the first bank's ghostly reputation rests. Every stone laid during its construction carries echoes of the hopes and fears of those who walked its halls centuries ago. As we move forward into the realm of the supernatural, keep in mind how deeply intertwined these historical threads are with the eerie tales that follow. After all, it is impossible to separate the specters said to inhabit the bank from the people and events that gave them life, or perhaps death, in the first place. Ghost stories and supernatural phenomena as the sun dips below the horizon and shadows stretch long across Philadelphia's cobblestone streets, the first bank of the United States transforms into something far more sinister than its daytime facade suggests. Visitors and staff alike have whispered about the strange occurrences within its walls, phenomena so unsettling they defy rational explanation. From disembodied voices echoing through empty halls to chilling apparitions glimpsed out of the corner of one's eye, the bank is a veritable hotspot for paranormal activity. Let us now delve into some of the most compelling accounts that have solidified its reputation as one of America's most haunted locations. One of the most frequently reported phenomena involves the sound of footsteps pacing along the upper floors, even when no one is present. Security guards and maintenance workers have described hearing heavy boots marching back and forth late at night, accompanied by faint murmurs as though someone were conducting business in a room long abandoned. On several occasions, these phantom footfalls have been traced to areas once occupied by the bank's original clerks and accountants, leading many to speculate that the spirits of overworked employees remain tethered to their posts, unable, or unwilling, to leave behind the duties that consumed their lives. Perhaps the most famous ghost said to haunt the premises is that of Nicholas Biddle, the bank's second and final president. Known for his staunch defense of the institution during its waning years, Biddle fought bitterly against Andrew Jackson's campaign to dismantle it, a battle he ultimately lost. According to local lore, Biddle's spirit lingers in what was once his private office, now a dimly lit chamber filled with antique furniture and faded documents. Witnesses claim to see a tall, distinguished figure clad in period attire standing near the window, gazing mournfully toward Independence Hall as if lamenting the collapse of his cherished enterprise. Some report feeling an icy chill sweep through the air whenever they approach the space, while others describe hearing low, frustrated sighs emanating from nowhere in particular. Another recurring figure is that of an unidentified woman dressed in flowing 19th century garb. She is often spotted wandering the main hallways, her face partially obscured by a veil. Employees recount seeing her glide silently past before vanishing into thin air, leaving behind only the faint scent of lavender perfume. Though her identity remains unknown, some theorize she may have been the wife or daughter of a prominent banker who met an untimely demise within the building's confines. Others suggest she represents the countless women relegated to obscurity during the male-dominated era of early American finance, her spectral presence serving as a reminder of their overlooked contributions and sacrifices. But not all encounters are visual. Many visitors report experiencing unexplained physical sensations while exploring the bank after dark. One tour guide recalls being pushed forcefully from behind while descending a spiral staircase, only to find herself alone on the landing moments later. Another group of tourists claim to feel invisible hands tugging at their clothing as they pass through a narrow corridor connecting two wings of the building. Even skeptics admit to feeling uneasy in certain parts of the structure, particularly the basement vaults where stacks of gold and silver coins were once stored. Here, the oppressive atmosphere seems almost palpable, as though the weight of centuries-old secrets presses down on unsuspecting intruders. Some of the most disturbing stories involve objects moving without explanation. Chairs have been found overturned in rooms locked from the outside, papers shuffled inexplicably across desks, and light switches flipped on and off despite no electrical malfunctions. In one particularly bizarre incident, a security camera captured footage of a quill pen hovering midair before dropping onto a ledger book and scrawling a single word: debt. Whether this was a message from beyond or simply a cruel trick of perspective remains open to interpretation, but the clip quickly went viral online, sparking renewed interest in the bank's haunted reputation. Psychics and paranormal investigators who have studied the site offer varying explanations for the phenomena. Some attribute the hauntings to residual energy trapped within the building's thick stone walls, a kind of psychic imprint left behind by intense emotions experienced throughout its history. Others argue that intelligent spirits actively interact with the living, driven by unfinished agendas or unresolved conflicts. Regardless of the cause, the sheer volume of credible reports makes it difficult to dismiss the First Bank's supernatural claims outright. What ties these disparate experiences together is their undeniable connection to the human element. Each ghostly encounter reflects a facet of the bank's storied past: the relentless drive of ambitious financiers, the anguish of those betrayed by broken promises, and the silent suffering of individuals erased from official records. Together, these spectral manifestations paint a vivid picture of a place where history refuses to stay buried, and where the dead continue to walk among the living. The haunting legends of the First Bank of the United States are not confined to whispered folklore or anonymous anecdotes. They are anchored in first-hand testimonies from individuals who have encountered the supernatural head-on. These personal accounts add a visceral layer of authenticity to the ghostly tales, transforming abstract fear into tangible reality. Among the myriad witnesses, none stand out quite like Sarah Caldwell, a former curator of the bank's museum exhibit, and Marcus Reed, a seasoned security guard whose nightly patrols became anything but routine. Sarah Caldwell began her tenure at the First Bank in 2010, tasked with cataloging artifacts and preparing educational displays for public tours. What started as a professional endeavor soon turned into an unsettling odyssey. During her third month on the job, Sarah reported hearing faint whispers emanating from the archival storage room, a space typically devoid of human activity after hours. At first, she dismissed the sounds as the result of old pipes groaning or wind rattling loose windows. But one evening, while organizing a collection of 19th-century banknotes, the whispering grew louder and more distinct. To her horror, the disjointed words coalesced into a clear phrase: "Find my ledger." I froze, Sarah recounted during an interview with a local news outlet. It wasn't just a voice, it felt like someone was breathing down my neck. Shaken but determined, she searched the archives for any mention of missing ledgers, eventually uncovering a dusty journal belonging to a junior clerk named Thomas Whitman. Entries revealed that Whitman had been accused of embezzling funds shortly before disappearing under mysterious circumstances in 1823. Strangely, the entries stopped abruptly midway through a sentence, as though Whitman had been interrupted mid-thought. Since discovering the journal, Sarah claims the whispers ceased entirely, though she admits to feeling watched whenever she enters the storage room. Equally compelling is the testimony of Marcus Reed, a retired Navy veteran hired to oversee nighttime security at the bank. With decades of experience handling high-pressure situations, Marcus prided himself on remaining calm under duress. That composure was tested repeatedly during his 4-year stint at the First Bank. On multiple occasions, he reported seeing shadowy figures darting between columns in the main lobby, only to vanish when approached. The encounters escalated one fateful winter night in 2017 when Marcus discovered a series of claw-like scratches gouged into the wooden doorframe of Nicholas Biddle's former office. "I knew I hadn't seen anyone go in there," Marcus recalled during a podcast appearance. "And trust me, nobody gets past me unnoticed." He filed a report with his supervisor, attributing the damage to vandalism. However, the next morning, he found fresh scratches crisscrossing the same area, accompanied by the faint smell of scorched wood. Over time, Marcus began documenting each incident meticulously, noting patterns that suggested intentional communication. For instance, The scratches always appeared in clusters of 3, a detail he later learned corresponded to the number of failed attempts Congress made to extend the bank's charter. Even casual visitors have experienced inexplicable events. In 2019, a family visiting from Ohio captured video footage showing a chair sliding across the floor in the boardroom without any visible cause. The clip gained widespread attention online, prompting numerous comments from viewers claiming similar experiences elsewhere in the building. Such incidents underscore the pervasive nature of the hauntings, suggesting that the energy permeating the first bank transcends individual perception. Collectively, these accounts form a mosaic of dread and wonder, each piece reinforcing the notion that the bank harbors forces beyond mortal comprehension. Whether interpreted as warnings, pleas for justice, or mere echoes of the past, the phenomena described by eyewitnesses demand consideration. They remind us that history is not merely a sequence of dates and events, it is a living tapestry woven from human emotion, ambition, and loss. And sometimes, it speaks directly to those brave enough to listen. Scientific insights and skeptical perspectives. While the First Bank of the United States has earned a formidable reputation as a paranormal hotspot, it is imperative to examine these claims through both scientific scrutiny and skeptical inquiry. Paranormal investigators, historians, and skeptics alike have weighed in on the phenomena reported within its walls, offering diverse interpretations that range from plausible explanations rooted in psychology and physics to outright dismissal of supernatural involvement. By analyzing their findings, we can better discern whether the ghostly legends stem from genuine otherworldly activity or are instead products of human perception and environmental factors. Historians provide additional context by examining the socio-cultural backdrop against which these hauntings unfold. Dr. Emily Langston, a professor of American history specializing in 19th century economics, argues that much of the reported activity aligns closely with historical narratives tied to the bank's operations. The idea of restless spirits tied to financial ruin or betrayal isn't surprising, she explains. People in the early 1800s placed immense value on honor and legacy. If someone believed their reputation was tarnished unfairly, it's conceivable they'd cling to places associated with their downfall. Langston points to cases like Thomas Whitman's alleged embezzlement scandal, suggesting that unresolved guilt or shame could manifest as lingering energies perceived as ghostly presences. This perspective underscores the interconnectedness of human emotion and architectural spaces, framing the hauntings less as supernatural events and more as reflections of collective memory embedded in the environment. Skeptics, however, remain unconvinced. Prominent critic and author Richard Dawkins, known for his staunch opposition to pseudoscience, dismisses claims of paranormal activity as wishful thinking amplified by confirmation bias. In a televised debate on the topic of haunted sites, Dawkins argued that humans possess an innate tendency to seek patterns and assign agency to ambiguous stimuli. When you combine this cognitive predisposition with dim lighting, creaky floorboards, and centuries-old buildings steeped in dramatic history, it's no wonder people imagine ghosts, he stated. His critique extends to the tools used by paranormal investigators, which he contends lack rigorous calibration standards and are prone to producing false positives. For example, slight temperature variations detected by thermal cameras might simply reflect drafts or uneven heating rather than ectoplasmic entities. Environmental scientists offer another angle, proposing that certain physical properties of the first bank itself contribute to its eerie ambience. The building's thick limestone walls, coupled with its location near underground water sources, create ideal conditions for infrasound, a low-frequency vibration imperceptible to the human ear but capable of inducing feelings of unease, anxiety, and even hallucinations. Studies conducted by Dr. Vic Tandy, a British engineer who pioneered research into infrasound's effects on human behavior, demonstrate how exposure to such frequencies can lead individuals to perceive ghostly apparitions or sense unseen presences. Could it be that visitors' experiences at the First Bank are less about actual spirits and more about their subconscious responses to subtle acoustic phenomena? Psychologists also weigh in, emphasizing the role of suggestion and expectation in shaping paranormal encounters. Professor Lisa Jenkins, a specialist in cognitive biases and belief systems, notes that cultural conditioning plays a significant role. If someone enters a reputedly haunted site expecting to see or hear something unusual, their brain will prioritize sensory data that aligns with those expectations, she says. Jenkins references classic experiments involving staged, haunted environments, where participants consistently reported supernatural occurrences despite knowing beforehand that everything was fabricated. This psychological framework helps explain why so many visitors to the first bank describe eerily similar experiences, such as cold spots, disembodied footsteps, and fleeting glimpses of shadowy figures, even if no verifiable evidence supports their claims. Despite these varied perspectives, one cannot ignore the consistency and volume of eyewitness accounts spanning decades. Even the most ardent skeptics concede that dismissing every incident outright risks oversimplifying the complexity of human experience. Instead, they advocate for interdisciplinary approaches that integrate insights from fields as diverse as neuroscience, acoustics, and anthropology. By doing so, researchers may uncover not only the mechanisms behind purported hauntings but also deeper truths about how we interact with history, memory, and the spaces we inhabit. Ultimately, the question remains unanswered: are the first bank's ghost stories manifestations of genuine paranormal activity, or are they elaborate constructs born of human imagination and environmental quirks? Perhaps the answer lies somewhere in between, a delicate interplay of fact and fiction, science and superstition, past and present. One thing is certain: the First Bank of the United States continues to captivate minds and unsettle hearts, challenging us to reconcile what we know with what we feel. The First Bank in context. To fully appreciate the magnitude of the First Bank of the United States' haunting legacy, it is essential to situate its spectral tales alongside other notoriously haunted locations worldwide. This comparative lens not only highlights the unique characteristics of the bank's ghostly phenomena but also underscores universal themes shared across cultures and eras, themes that reveal profound truths about human psychology, societal anxieties, and the enduring allure of the supernatural. Consider, for instance, Eastern State Penitentiary in Philadelphia, a mere stone's throw from the First Bank. Often hailed as one of America's most haunted sites, this former prison houses its own pantheon of restless spirits. Guards and inmates alike have reported hearing anguished cries echoing through its decaying cell blocks, while shadowy figures are said to pace the corridors where solitary confinement once drove men to madness. Like the First Bank, Eastern State's hauntings are deeply intertwined with its grim history. Both institutions evoke visceral reactions due to their associations with power, control, and systemic injustice. Yet, while the penitentiary's ghosts seem fueled by rage and despair, the First Bank's apparitions appear more contemplative, embodying the unresolved tensions of ambition, betrayal, and financial ruin. This distinction mirrors broader societal fears. Whereas Eastern State taps into our dread of incarceration and punishment, the First Bank probes anxieties surrounding wealth, legacy, and moral accountability. Venturing further afield, we encounter Edinburgh Castle in Scotland, a fortress perched atop an ancient volcanic rock and steeped in centuries of bloodshed and intrigue. Its dungeons and secret passageways are reputedly teeming with phantoms, including the ghost of a piper boy who vanished while exploring hidden tunnels and the spectral figure of a headless drummer warning of impending doom. The castle's hauntings share a kinship with those of the First Bank in their connection to tragic personal stories and historical upheaval. Both sites serve as repositories for collective grief, where individual tragedies merge with larger narratives of conflict and survival. However, Edinburgh Castle leans heavily into mythological elements, blending folklore with documented events, whereas the First Bank's legends remain firmly grounded in verifiable history, a reflection of America's pragmatic approach to storytelling versus Europe's penchant for romanticized mysticism. On the Asian continent, Japan's Aokigahara Forest offers yet another point of comparison. Known colloquially as the Suicide Forest, this dense woodland at the base of Mount Fuji is infamous for its association with death and melancholy. Visitors speak of encountering shadowy figures lurking among the trees and hearing disembodied whispers urging them to join the departed. Unlike the structured environments of the First Bank or Edinburgh Castle, Aokigahara's haunting stems from its natural chaos and isolation, a stark contrast that illuminates how setting influences perception. where the first bank exudes orderliness disrupted by inexplicable phenomena, Aokigahara embodies disorder itself, amplifying feelings of disorientation and dread. Despite these differences, both locations grapple with existential questions about life, death, and the boundaries between worlds, a testament to humanity's shared fascination with mortality. Closer to home, the Winchester Mystery House in San Jose, California, presents a fascinating parallel to the first bank. Built by Sarah Winchester, heir to the firearms fortune, this sprawling mansion features labyrinthine hallways, staircases leading nowhere, and doors opening onto sheer drops, all allegedly constructed under guidance from spirits communicating through seances. Much like the first bank, the house attracts visitors intrigued by its blend of opulence and eeriness, though its focus shifts from institutional history to personal obsession. Here, the haunting centers on guilt and redemption, themes echoed faintly in the first bank's tales of financial misdeeds and unfinished legacies. Both sites challenge visitors to confront uncomfortable truths about ambition's costs and the ways humanity seeks absolution. These comparisons illuminate several recurring motifs across haunted locales: power dynamics, unresolved trauma, and the interplay between architecture and emotion. Whether set in prisons, castles, forests, or mansions, these stories tap into primal fears while reflecting specific cultural values. For the first bank of the United States, its haunting legacy resonates uniquely because it embodies quintessential American ideals: capitalism, innovation, and resilience, while exposing their darker undercurrents. It reminds us that even the most celebrated achievements carry shadows, and that history's ghosts linger longest where dreams collide with reality. By examining the first bank through this global prism, we gain not only a richer understanding of its spectral significance but also insight into why hauntings captivate us universally. They are more than mere entertainment. They are mirrors reflecting our deepest hopes, fears, and curiosities. And perhaps, in confronting these echoes of the past, we find solace in knowing we are not alone, not in our struggles, nor in our search for meaning amidst uncertainty. As we draw this chilling exploration to a close, let us pause and reflect on the timeless allure of haunted places like the First Bank of the United States. These spectral sites are not merely relics of architecture or history, they are vessels of emotion, memory, and the human condition. They remind us that every structure, no matter how grand or mundane, bears the imprints of those who have walked its halls, touched its walls, and breathed its air. The First Bank, with its rich tapestry of triumphs and tragedies, stands as a testament to the enduring power of stories, those told by the living and those whispered by the dead. What draws us to these haunted spaces? Is it the thrill of the unknown, the tantalizing possibility that something beyond our comprehension exists just out of reach? Or is it the comfort of connection, the reassurance that even in death, our legacies persist, shaping the world long after we are gone? Perhaps it is both. The First Bank teaches us that hauntings are rarely about fear alone, they are about resonance. They echo the unresolved conflicts, unspoken regrets, and unfulfilled dreams of those who came before us, urging us to listen, to remember, and to learn. For storytellers, historians, and seekers of truth, there is much to glean from studying the First Bank's spectral phenomena. Its ghostly tales invite us to peer beneath the surface of history, to question the narratives we accept, and uncover the ones hidden in plain sight. By embracing these stories, not as mere curiosities but as vital pieces of our collective heritage, we honor the lives and struggles that define us. We recognize that the past is never truly past. It lives on in the cracks of old stone, the creak of weathered wood, and the shiver that runs down your spine when you least expect it. So, dear readers and viewers, as you step away from this article, take a moment to consider the places you frequent, the homes you inhabit, the streets you traverse, the landmarks you admire. Each carries its own secrets, its own echoes waiting to be heard. And should you ever find yourself standing before the imposing facade of the First Bank of the United States, know that you are not merely a visitor, you are part of its ongoing story. Listen closely, for the whispers of history may yet reach your ears. Before we part ways, don't forget to subscribe to Haunted Tales Unveiled for more spine-tingling journeys into the unknown. Hit that notification bell so you won't miss our next adventure, and share this tale with friends who dare to explore the shadows. Until then, stay curious, stay brave, and remember, sometimes, the most haunting stories are the ones closest to home. Good night, and sweet nightmares.